Okay, Reddit. I'm in a weird spot and honestly, my head is spinning. I usually pride myself on being able to handle my family's particular brand of them. But this latest situation has me questioning if I'm the one being unreasonable, or if things are as messed up as they feel. AITA for wanting to tell my mom and sister to back the hell off my fiancé, even if it causes a massive family explosion. So a little background. I, 33, female Freya, have been with my fiancé Josh, 34, male, for 17 years. Yes, you read that right. 17 years. We met young, clicked, and have basically grown up together. He's my rock, my best friend, the whole 9 yards. Josh isn't from money. His family was middle-class, hard-working folks. He started a small YouTube channel ages ago, tinkering with funny content and gaming, and through sheer grit and business savvy, he's built that into a legitimate empire. We're talking a business probably valued around $120 million now. He still makes content because he loves it, but he's also a CEO. Most of his mates are part of his company, all doing incredibly well for themselves. He's the epitome of a self-made man, and I couldn't be prouder. My family, on the other hand, well, we're comfortable. Very comfortable. Think old money, sprawling villas, that sort of thing. My dad, Adam, 67, once bought a $20 million penthouse in another city because he thought he'd be spending a couple of months there for a project. He was back in 2 weeks. We still own the penthouse. It's just that level of casual wealth. My mom, Lily, 65, has always been a bit particular. When Josh and I first got serious, she definitely saw him as a phase. She'd make these little comments about how I'd eventually come to my senses or find someone more suitable. It stung, but Josh and I were solid, and I figured she'd come around. And she did, sort of. When Josh's success became undeniable, like impossible to ignore billboard-sized success, her tune changed. Suddenly, Josh was such a clever young man, so ambitious. She started wanting to be around him more, inviting him to family things he'd previously been subtly excluded from. It was a bit jarring, but I was glad for the thaw. Or so I thought. Now, here's where my sister Z, 29, female, comes in. Z is a product of her environment, let's say. She's never really had to work for anything. She lives off our parents, flitting from one expensive hobby to another. She's not a bad person deep down, I don't think, but she's incredibly spoiled and has this sense of entitlement that can be grating. She's beautiful, charming when she wants to be, and used to getting her way. For a while, she was making more than I through some online content stuff she did, leveraging Dad's name and connections. But it fizzled out as those things often do when there's no real passion behind it. Lately, Mom has been weird. She's been dropping these heavy-handed hints about how Z is at that age where she should be settling down and how Josh is such a good influence. Then it escalated to her, suggesting that Josh should spend some more time with Z, maybe mentor her or give her some advice on her next fleeting career idea. My alarm bells started ringing faintly at first, then louder. Josh is polite always, but he's also very focused. He doesn't have a lot of free time, and what he does have, we usually spend together, or with our close friends. The thing is, Josh is attractive, successful, kind, and generous. He's a catch, and I think my mom, in her own twisted way, sees him as this prize. And maybe she thinks Z deserves a guy like him more than I do. Or perhaps she just wants to keep his success closer to the family through Z. I don't know. Her motivations are a confusing lily-shaped labyrinth. I have two amazing friends, Amy, 32, female, and G, 31, female. We all met like a decade ago at some corporate sponsorship event. We're all creators in different niches, working with various brands. And we just clicked. They're my sisters from other misters, both fierce, self-made women who take no crap. I'm hesitant to even tell them the full extent of this, because I know their reaction. They'd tell me I'm an idiot for even entertaining this, for not shutting it down immediately and spectacularly. And maybe they're right. Josh is confused too. He's noticed Mom's extra attention and Z's sudden interest in his work. He mentioned the other day that Mom suggested he take Z to a business dinner as his +1 because I was supposedly busy. He politely declined, saying he preferred to attend solo or with his mates if I couldn't make it. But the attempts are getting more frequent, more blatant. It feels like Mom is actively trying to push Z and Josh together. Z, for her part, seems to be lapping up the attention and the idea. She started dressing a bit more like me, asking Josh questions about things she knows I'm interested in. It's subtle, but it's there and it's unsettling. I feel like I'm in some bizarre, low-budget soap opera. I don't want to cause a huge rift with my mother and sister, especially since my dad tries to stay out of these things. But the thought of them actively trying to undermine my relationship, my 17-year relationship, makes my blood boil. What should I do, Reddit? Should I confront them head on? Try to gather more proof, though what that would even look like, I don't know. Or am I just being paranoid and insecure? Update 1. Well, Reddit, it's been about a week since my original post, and things have escalated in a way I didn't see coming. My own mother played me, and I walked right into it like a lamb to the slaughter. I'm currently sitting in a gorgeous, way too expensive rental in Canada, feeling like the world's biggest fool. So, after I posted, I was stewing. Your comments were a mixed bag. Some said confront, some said wait and see. Many confirmed my mom and sister were way out of line. I was leaning towards a direct, albeit calm, conversation. But then life threw a curveball. My friends Amy and G, who I mentioned, are both successful, self-made women, were on a work pleasure trip in Canada. They'd been bugging me to join them for a long weekend, a sort of escape the family drama trip. I'd initially said no. Too much going on, couldn't get away. Flights were a nightmare last minute. Prohibitively expensive the usual. Then out of the blue, my mother Lily calls me. She's all sweetness and light, saying she heard I was trying to get to Canada to see the girls and wasn't at a shame about the flights. Then she says, and get this, why don't you take the jet, darling? It's just sitting there. Now, you have to understand the family's private jet is like a sacred object. It's not something you just borrow for a girl's weekend. It's for serious business emergencies or my father's very specific travel whims. My sister Z has used it more than I have, usually for some important influencer event or a shopping trip she deems essential. My asking for it would usually be met with a raised eyebrow and a suggestion to fly commercial like a peasant. So for mom to offer it unsolicited, my internal alarm bells weren't just ringing. They were blaring like a 5-alarm fire. But a part of me, the tired, stressed part, just wanted to get away. Amy and G were so excited. Mom was so accommodating. I even double-checked. Are you sure, Mom? It's a big ask. And she was all nonsense, Freya. You deserve a break. Go have fun. So, with a nagging feeling of unease that I stupidly ignored, I packed a bag and off I went. The flight was smooth, luxurious, the whole 9 yards. 6 or 7 hours later, I land in Canada, feeling a bit lighter despite the weirdness. A car is waiting and I head to the incredible lake house Amy and G rented. As I walk in, G practically tackles me with a hug. I figured she just missed me, but then Amy comes over and her face is grim. She just says, Fia, I'm so sorry. My stomach drops. Sorry for what? Amy then shows me her phone. It's Z's private Instagram account, which I don't follow because frankly I don't need to see her 15th selfie of the day with a designer bag. And there it is, a series of stories. Z looking smug at a very nice, very romantic-looking restaurant with Josh. Josh, who looks about as comfortable as a cat in a bathtub. There's a picture of her hand casually resting near his on the table. Another one of them with drinks, her leaning in a little too close. My phone, which had been on airplane mode, starts buzzing like crazy as soon as it connects to the Wi-Fi. Dozens of missed calls from Josh. A flood of texts. Freya, call me urgent. Your mom set this whole thing up. This is a nightmare. Please tell me you're okay. Why aren't you answering? I try calling him immediately, my hands shaking. Straight to voicemail again. Voicemail again. Nothing. And then it hits me. The jet. Mom's sudden generosity. She wanted me out of the country. She orchestrated this. She sent me thousands of miles away so Z could have a clear shot at Josh. I feel sick. I'm in this beautiful place surrounded by luxury, but all I feel is this cold, creeping dread and a profound sense of betrayal. My own mother. Amy and G are trying to be supportive, making tea, offering to help me book a flight back on a commercial airline this time. Obviously. But I just feel numb. What the hell is going on back home? And why isn't Josh picking up now? Did something else happen? I'm stuck here replaying every clawingly sweet word my mother said, and I don't know what to do next. Update 2. Okay, it's been a few days since my last update from Canada. The good news is I'm back in town. The bad news, the reality of what happened is even uglier and more manipulative than I could have imagined from Z's smug Instagram stories. I'm furious. I'm hurt and honestly a little bit scared. The flight back was hell. Every scenario played out in my head. When I finally landed, Josh was there looking exhausted and stressed, but so relieved to see me. We basically clung to each other at the gate. We went back to our place and he told me everything. Apparently, almost as soon as my jet was wheels up, my mother Lily texted Josh. She told him she needed to meet him urgently. Something about a family matter she wanted to discuss privately. Josh, bless his heart, thought maybe, just maybe, she was finally going to have a genuine conversation with him. Maybe clear the air about some of the weirdness. He said he felt it was important to show willingness, especially since they're my family, and he was hoping they could finally take some initiative to build a real relationship. So, he agreed to meet her at a restaurant she'd chosen. He gets there, sits at the table she'd reserved, and then receives a text from Lily. She's apologizing profusely, saying something came up last minute and she couldn't make it. Josh said he felt a bit deflated, but then another text came through from her. Don't worry, darling, I've sent someone to keep you company. A little apology from my end for messing you about. And guess who waltzes in? Josh said she was dressed to the nines, but in a way that was off. He realized pretty quickly that her outfit, her makeup, even her hair was a deliberate attempt to mimic my style. Not an exact copy, but the aesthetic was undeniably mine. He said it was creepy from the get-go. She was overly familiar, super touchy, constantly laughing too loudly at things that weren't funny, and just generally radiating this desperate, pretentious vibe. Josh said he'd had enough within the first 15 minutes, but felt trapped. He didn't want to be rude and storm out, especially because he still thought, at that point, that Lily might have genuinely had an emergency, and Z was just an awkward stand-in. He spent most of the date on his phone, trying to subtly signal his discomfort, but Z was either oblivious or chose to ignore it, continuing her flirty, obnoxious routine. He tried to text me, then call, but obviously I was midair. He then texted his best friend and business partner Toby, 34, male, who's also a good friend of mine and has known Josh for like 3 decades, begging him to call with a fake emergency so he could escape. Unfortunately, Toby was tied up in a critical meeting and didn't see the texts for a while. The worst part, Josh told me that at one point, while Z was rambling on about some designer or other, he glanced towards a darker corner of the restaurant near the service entrance, and he saw her. My mother Lily is partially hidden watching them. He said that's when he went from uncomfortable to furious. This wasn't an unfortunate coincidence. It was a calculated voyeuristic setup. And for those of you who know Josh or men like him, he almost never gets angry. In the 17 years we've been together, I can count on one hand the times I've seen him truly mad. This was one of them. When Toby finally called back, Josh made his excuses and practically sprinted out of there, leaving Z looking bewildered. Toby was actually with us when Josh was recounting all this. Toby, who is genuinely one of the nicest, most laid-back guys you'll ever meet, said he was disgusted. He'd met Z a few times at family events and said the way she was looking at Josh in those Instagram pictures, which Amy had screenshot and sent me, made his skin crawl. He was properly pissed off on our behalf. After Toby left, Josh looked at me, his face pale, and told me something else, something that made my blood run cold. As he was leaving the restaurant, Z apparently said something to him, a parting shot. She casually mentioned our miscarriage. 4 years ago, I got pregnant. It was unexpected, and we were still figuring things out, but we were leaning towards excitement. Then a few weeks in, I had a miscarriage. It was devastating. We grieved, we supported each other, and we moved on. But it's a pain that never fully disappears. We told very, very few people. His parents, a couple of extremely close friends who had seen us down. That's it. Z was definitely not on that list for her to know and to bring it up to Josh in that moment. Josh said her tone wasn't sympathetic. It was pointed. He felt it was a veiled threat, a way of saying, I know things. Basically emotional blackmail. I immediately called Amy and G and spilled everything, including the miscarriage comment. G, who is usually the more zen one, went quiet for a moment, then just said, Okay, Freya, Don't you worry about Z or your mother. We've got this. We have a few mutual acquaintances who might be interested to hear about their tactics. I don't know what she has planned, but the steel in her voice was both terrifying and incredibly reassuring. I'm so angry I can barely see straight. My mother and sister didn't just try to break us up. They used our deepest pain as leverage. How did Z even find out? The thought makes me sick. What do I even do with this information? Part of me wants to burn their whole world down, but another smaller part is just broken. Update 3. It's been another week, maybe a little more, since I last updated you all, and things have taken another bizarre turn. If you thought the hidden mom in a restaurant and miscarriage blackmail was the peak of this drama, buckle up. Josh is now for all intents and purposes dating my sister Z. Okay. Before you all collectively lose your minds, no, they are not actually dating. But that's the impression Z and my mother Lily are currently under. After the disastrous date and the disgusting miscarriage comment, Josh and I had a long talk. We were both furious, but we realized that a straightforward confrontation might just make them deny everything or dig their heels in further. We needed to understand why. What was the end game here beyond just Z wanting a rich, successful boyfriend and Lily wanting to control him? So Josh, bless his strategic mind, that's why he's the CEO, folks, decided to play along just a little. He reached out to Z, apologized for rushing off from the restaurant, blamed a sudden work crisis, and suggested they grab a coffee platonically to clear the air. Z predictably jumped at the chance. Lily was practically purring with delight in the background, according to Josh. He spent a bit more time with them over the past week. A couple of carefully orchestrated, very public, very brief meetups, always with an escape plan. He's been feeding them just enough rope to see if they'll hang themselves with it. And it seems they're more than willing. From what Josh has gathered, Z is mostly a pawn in this. A willing one, sure, because she enjoys the attention and the thought of winning Josh. But she doesn't seem to have a clue about the deeper machinations. The real puppet master is Lily, but even she might be taking cues from someone else, or at least has a bigger agenda. Lily has started talking to Josh about his business in more detail, specifically his global connections. His company ships merchandise worldwide, so he has a pretty robust network of import through export contacts, logistics partners, manufacturers, etc. She started asking very pointed questions about how it all works, who he knows, how one might hypothetically set up a similar distribution channel for, say, a different kind of product. Josh, playing the interested and slightly flattered protege, reeled her in. And sure enough, she hinted at wanting to facilitate some sort of business connection between Josh's empire and a new venture the family or she is considering. The mess, as Josh put it, goes much deeper than just trying to swap out one daughter for another. While Josh has been playing undercover lover boy, his words, not mine, and he says it with an eye roll, Amy and G have been doing their own digging through their networks, and they hit pay dirt. It turns out Z is actively planning to launch a new company, a female-focused cosmetics brand. And her business plan, which a loose-lipped acquaintance of theirs got a glimpse of, apparently heavily features leveraging Josh's public image, his platform, and his audience for marketing, the audacity. In 17 years, I have never used Josh's platform to boost my own work. I've built my career on my own merits. Yes, I had a privileged starting point in life. No denying that. But I've worked my butt off. Even when Z was briefly earning more than I with her fleeting internet fame, she was always riding on Dad's coattails or using his connections. This is just next level. I am, to put it mildly, incandescent with rage. My first instinct was to storm over to my father Adam and demand to know if he was aware of this circus. He's always been the more reasonable one, the one who, despite the immense wealth, still has some grounding. But Josh talked me down. He pointed out that we don't know the full picture yet. What if Dad is involved? Or what if Lily is feeding him a completely different story, painting Josh as the pursuer and Z as the reluctant party? It's possible. So, we're holding off on confronting anyone directly for now. Instead, I've decided to host a party next week, a small intimate gathering at our place. Just close friends, some business associates, and of course, my delightful family. I've built it as a little get-together, maybe a small announcement about a recent success I've had. But in reality, I have a couple of announcements to make. And I have a feeling they're not going to be well received by certain members of the guest list. I'm nervous. I'm still angry. But there's also this tiny, wicked spark of anticipation. Let them think they're winning. Let them think Josh is falling for their act. The fall will be that much harder. The question is, can I keep my cool until then? And what if my dad really is part of this? That's a betrayal I don't even want to contemplate. Update 4, final update. Well, Reddit, the party happened, and it was memorable. Explosive might be a better word. I'm writing this a couple of days later, still processing everything, but also feeling a sense of clarity I haven't had in weeks. And yes, there's a detail at the end that might surprise you, but it feels right. So, the party, our apartment was buzzing. Close friends like Amy and G were there radiating supportive energy. Josh's best friend Toby was there, looking like he knew something big was about to go down. And of course, my family arrived. Mom, Lily, Dad, Adam, and Z. Lily and Z were practically glowing, whispering to each other, and shooting these triumphant little glances at Jock, who was playing the role of attentive, charming host to perfection. He even endured Z linking her arm through his for a moment, and I swear I saw Lily give a satisfied nod. The audacity was truly something to behold. About an hour in, I gathered everyone. I started by thanking them for coming, then made my first announcement. I told them about a massive new partnership I'd recently landed, a multi-year deal with a major brand that essentially catapults my own career and financial standing to a whole new level. It was true, and the timing was perfect. I wanted to establish very clearly that I am my own woman, successful in my own right, not just Josh's girlfriend. There were cheers, congratulations. Lily and Z looked slightly less smug. Then I took a deep breath, and on a more personal note, I began my voice steady. I wanted to address something that's been happening. It's come to my attention that my mother Lily and my sister Z have been under a serious misapprehension. I saw their smiles freeze. I said that they seem to believe that my fiancé Josh is available. They've been going to rather extraordinary lengths to try and get him under their spell, so to speak. A collective gasp went through the room. People looked shocked, confused. Lily started to splutter. Freya, how dare you? We were just trying to set my sister up with my fiancé. I cut her off, my voice hardening. Yes, fiancé. That was the second bomb. No one, not even Amy and G, knew. Josh and I had kept it very private. I explained that Josh and I have actually been engaged for 4 years. We got engaged shortly after I found out I was pregnant. We were overjoyed planning a future, but then I had the miscarriage a few weeks later. The grief was overwhelming, and the timing for a wedding just didn't feel right. We knew we were committed. The ring was on my finger. I usually wore it on a chain around my neck under my clothes, and that was enough for us. We'd planned to make a more public announcement eventually when it felt right. As I was saying this, Toby, bless his dramatic timing, moved through the crowd. He tossed a small velvet box to Josh, who caught it smoothly. And right there, in front of everyone, Josh dropped to one knee, opened the box to reveal the ring I usually wore, and said, Fia, my love, we've weathered so many storms, and this ridiculous charade is just another one. I should have done this publicly years ago. Will you officially marry me? Even I didn't know this was going to happen. Tears were streaming down my face. I choked out a yes. The room erupted. Amy and G were screaming and hugging me. It was a beautiful, chaotic moment. Lily and Z were frozen, their faces a mask of disbelief and fury. Just then, my father Adam stepped forward. He looked at Josh and said, his voice firm, Son, I'm glad to see you have a backbone and good taste. He then turned to me. Freya? When Lily told me Josh was spending time with Z, that he was being quite forward with her, I'll admit something felt off. It didn't sound like the young man I've come to know. I asked him, my heart in my throat, Dad, were you part of this? Did you know what they were planning? He shook his head, looking genuinely pained. Not the specifics. Lily fed me a version where Josh was pursuing Z, and she was confused but flattered. My gut told me it was bull, frankly, but I didn't realize the extent of their manipulation until tonight. He made it clear to Lily and Z that any plans for family funding of Z's cosmetic venture or a business collaboration between Lily and Josh's company were immediately canceled. That's when Lily lost it. She started shouting about how I didn't deserve Josh, how I was ungrateful, how Z was the better match. It was ugly, embarrassing, and honestly just sad. She eventually stormed out, Z trailing silently behind her, looking utterly defeated. I heard later she decamped to one of their other condos in the city. Good riddance. I've since had a long talk with my dad. He's appalled by Lily's and Z's behavior, especially the miscarriage revelation, which he hadn't known Z was aware of or would ever use. He's promised to have a very firm word with them. But honestly, I don't care anymore. I've told him I'm cutting Mom and Z off, at least for the foreseeable future. I need space, and they need to face some consequences. I also told Dad that if he ever allows himself to be manipulated like that again, or stands by while they try to sabotage my life, our relationship will suffer too. He understood. So why the surprise ending I mentioned? Well, Josh and I talked. After all this drama, all this ugliness trying to tear us apart, we realized we didn't want to wait anymore. Life is too short for long engagements when you know you just know. I'm writing this final update to you all. While sitting in a very simple, very beautiful white dress, we eloped. Just us, Amy G and Toby as witnesses. It was perfect. The sun is setting. I have a glass of champagne, and my husband is smiling at me from across the room. So Reddit, after all that, was I the for blowing up my family's manipulative scheme at a party and finally marrying the love of my life on my own terms, effectively burning those bridges with my mom and sister? Somehow, I don't think I care about the answer anymore. I'm just happy.